and welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is a podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. And today, we are going to plan a week together. You guys know I have experimented with doing things a little bit live on the podcast before. In the past, I have cleaned out my email inbox, I wouldn't say live on the air, but recorded on the air and kind of went through the highlights and how long everything took. And today, we're going to go through the steps of weekly planning together as if I were planning the upcoming week. Now, to be incredibly honest, I am not actually doing this in real time because I do most of my weekly planning on the weekends. And on the weekends, my house is really loud and chaotic because the kids are home and things are a little bit crazy. And so I wasn't able to actually do this live on the air, but I'm going to do a bit of a reenactment and maybe an even more detailed version. And those of you who have read the book or who have seen my planning checklists, you can kind of follow along, but otherwise you can even use this recording as a checklist of sorts if you are looking for inspiration on how to systematically plan your week. I'm also going to share screenshots of what the week looked like, both in terms of the board we use to communicate with the family and also what my planner looked like that week. And interestingly, this episode is airing on Monday. Let's see, today's the 9th as I'm recording this. So it's airing in exactly 1 week. And therefore, you'll have been able to see kind of exactly what was planned in the prior week. So that does, eliminate any stalking possibilities because by the time this comes out, everything's already happened. That's good. But also, I want to give you a little disclaimer in that this is kind of a wild week. And I know many weeks are wild weeks. We have vacation weeks and we act like every week is the same, but really there's almost always some kind of variation. But really, this week is an anomaly. And I say that especially because I'm actually going away for 2 nights during this week. And lest anyone listen and think I leave my family like all the time or something like that, I really don't. I think this is the first time I have gone on a solo trip in a number of months now. I think I did do some really fun stuff last fall, but it's been a while. And so just wanted to say that. Not that there's anything wrong with people that do travel without their family, but I don't do that all the time. So there was a little bit more to plan, I would say. And then I also have a really fun Friday night activity planned. So you'll hear about that as well. But we're going to go through the steps. I am pulling out the checklist that's in my book. Do I do that every week as I plan? No, but I kind of have my steps ingrained by now. But this way I'll be able to do things on the air and make sure I go through all of it. So let's do it. We're going to plan the week of March 9th, even as this airs on March the 16th. All right. So the first step is to look back and reflect and review over last week. Okay, good. I think this is always important to do because, well, for 2 reasons. We're going to be looking back at what didn't get done so we can figure out what to migrate. And also we can celebrate anything great that happened last week. All right, so I am looking at my planner spread for the week of March 2nd through March 8th. And you guys know I keep my task list for the week on the left-hand side of the planner. And then I'll also sometimes assign myself to specific days. So I'm looking for empty boxes that aren't checked off to figure out where I'm going to move them forward. Although before I even do that, let me celebrate the things that did get done. And that is in my guide here. Review last week's accomplishments. Well, I saw a lot of patients. It was a very busy clinical week. It looks like I did 3 or 4 interviews. I successfully had my first in-person cluttering session, so that's definitely something to celebrate. I got done pretty much all of the workouts I had planned, except for one morning I was too tired because we had been out late at a basketball game, so I skipped my morning yoga, but that's okay. I got lots of workouts done. I enjoyed some relaxation over the weekend and got to celebrate my son's birthday on Sunday. So lots of stuff that did happen. I guess I'll celebrate that. Yay. And then I'm going to look at what did not happen so I can figure out what to do with these undone tasks. I had on my list to book Peds Endo Society flights and registration. I did do the registration. I did not yet do the flights. So I am going to go ahead and migrate that task to the weekly list for the week of this week. I had on my list to make reservations for Vero restaurants, but I actually crossed it out because it turned out that we're going to do places that were walk-ins. So it was pretty easy. I did make one reservation, but anyway, I crossed that off the list. I was going to contact a vocal teacher about lessons for my youngest, and I did not do that. So again, I'm going to go ahead and write that on my weekly list for the 9th. I wrote that I was going to buy my sister a flight to Orlando because she's coming to visit. Check that was already checked off. I was going to figure out something for direct deposits. I checked that off. I was going to do my LLC's annual report. Did not do that. So another one that I am migrating to this week's task list. And finally, I was going to schedule a child for a PCP's visit, and that did not happen. So I'm going to migrate that as well. And then I'll take a double check and just look at all the specific days to see if there was anything assigned that I didn't do. And the only thing that I see that's not checked off here is that I did not organize KonMari style one of my kids' rooms. Just too tired over the weekend. So I'm not going to migrate that for now. That was kind of an idea to try to sneak in on the weekend, but for now, I'm going to let that one go. All right, so right now, what I just did, I looked back at my calendar page from the week prior, and we've reviewed what got done, hooray, and I have noted everything that did not get done that was on my weekly list, and I've either migrated it, I've given it a specific time slot, or like that tidying, I just let it go for now. I'm not going to assign it to a specific thing. Now, the next thing on this weekly planning checklist is to go ahead and review my latest monthly list. So I will go ahead and do that and share with you what's on here. So interestingly, I keep my monthly list in my Hobonichi these days just because there is that lovely blank page that they have at the beginning of each month. And I did do a nice monthly planning session. So I don't know if I want to read this whole list to you guys, but let me give you some highlights. I wrote I wanted to get my nails done at least once. Haven't done that yet. To order one new color of scrubs, to start a cross-stitch kit while I'm waiting for mine to come in the mail, so I haven't been able to start yet, and to keep up with my protein goals for nutrition. For work, I wanted to pitch 5 shows. Nope, haven't done that yet. To continue to work on BLPA 2.0, I have made some progress there. I have a great outline. I have some really good ideas and a contract with my designer. I wanted to start working on Best Laid Plans Live workbook revisions. Oh, I forgot I put that on there. That's way ahead of the game, but I have not started yet. And I wanted to register for Peds Endo Society. That's already done. Under the fun category, I wanted to see a movie, which I've already done. I wanted to reach out to some of my friends in San Francisco. That's half done. I wanted to get a bathing suit for Naples. We're going there in a few weeks. And I think I'm actually going to just stick with the ones I have. I did a little try on as I cleaned out my closet. And it turns out I have a couple of bathing suits that are pretty decent. So I think I'm going to actually let that one go. I wanted to start under the home category, start with an organizer and do my homework. Well, I already started, but I do have homework. So that will get done. I wanted to ask for at least one bathroom reno estimate. Step 1 was to get the number of a contractor that my friend used. And I did do that. So we're on the pathway. I was going to help my husband with filing some reimbursements, and that's been done. And I need to disseminate some pottery that my youngest made at a birthday party way back. Not started that yet. Then for relationships, I wanted to do weekly walk and talks. I have a couple scheduled. To have a fun girls' night with my oldest, which we did. To have 2 date nights, which I have planned. And to submit all of my tax stuff. I'm not sure why that's in relationships, but I think I just thought about it and realized it had to go somewhere. And then finally, I had written myself notes about sort of things that are coming up. Okay. And that includes the fact that I wrote April is insane, plan ahead. We have a trip coming at the end of the year. Passover is coming up. I have a trip to Naples. I'm going to Williamstown. My daughter has gymnastics dates. Oh my God, there's a lot coming up. So I just wanted to remind myself that maybe March is kind of chill. We're actually not doing that much, but chaos is coming. So I can kind of keep that in mind in terms of the cadence of how I want to plan things in. Okay, so I've digested what is happening during the month of March. And by the way, again, as I'm airing this, it's March 9th. So the fact that I haven't gotten most of these monthly goals done is not so bad. We still have more than 2/3 of the month left. And as I said, it's actually a pretty low-key month, like no call weeks, no major travel until the very end. So I have some high hopes about getting things done. But it's important for me to go ahead and look at that list so I can figure out what I want to put on this week's list. All right, so that's all in my head, kind of absorbed it. And now we are going to go ahead and do the next step, which is to look ahead. So I'm going to pull up my week and see what is actually coming up this week. And again, I'm kind of reenacting this. I already did it. So it's going to come out a little bit more fluidly than it probably would the first time around, but that's okay. So I can see I've already assigned myself some tasks that were already on that left-hand side, even prior to doing my plan, because I had assigned them previously, knowing that I'd have some open time. So I have a couple of to-dos there for some different professional things. And then on Monday, I'm just going to go day by day briefly here. I have a meeting at my kids' school. I have a Pilates class, and then I am going with Laura, my podcasting partner from Best of Both Worlds, to Vero Beach for a 2-night retreat where we're going to do lots of work, lots of recording, lots of dreaming, etc. So that's super fun. And I'm thinking in my mind that would also be some open time, maybe in the early mornings, to process some email because I've gotten a little bit behind, but mostly just sort of focused on the show and like the big picture planning there. Then on Wednesday, I'll still be away, but one of my kids has a field trip. So that's just kind of important to keep in mind in terms of logistics. On Wednesday afternoon, I'll be back by probably around 2 or 3 or so. And then on Thursday, another one of my kids has a field trip and has to be dropped off at 6:30 in the morning. So good to know. I think I will do that because my husband can do the late end of that. And then I have a full day of patients on Thursday. I normally do on Tuesday, but I'd requested off. So again, this is a little bit of a different week. So a full day of patients. I have an old patient actually coming to visit me to say hi, which is going to be kind of thrilling. He's applying to med school, so that's super cool. And I have a resident working with me in the afternoon. And then on Friday, I have Pilates early and then another full day of patients. I'm sadly going to miss my oldest gymnastics meets. I go to pretty much all of them, but this one is at 10:45 on a Friday. And we didn't find out that it was at that time until pretty recently. So it was a little too late to move patients, but she's going to go with a friend and my husband may be able to take her as well. So that's going to be great. So I'll look forward to getting those updates while I'm seeing patients. And then on Friday night, I'm going to a concert. And it is an 80s like revival concert. So Vanilla Ice and Tiffany are going to be performing. And I decided to make it extra fun that I would order a Tiffany t-shirt and some jelly bracelets. So that's just going to be a really fun night with one of my best friends who lives in Miami Beach is coming up here. And 2 other women are coming and it's just going to be a big party. Hopefully I'll be home by 11 or so because the next day on Saturday, my youngest has tennis, then my older one has gymnastics, and then we've decided we're going to visit family in Miami Beach that night and go out to dinner. We kind of made that plan while we were driving this past weekend. And then finally on Sunday, we have basically nothing planned. I am going to Pilates, and that is a day that I have earmarked for lots and lots of decluttering homework because I have the organizer coming a week from then, and I want to have done the things that she suggested to do. And then finally, I think we might sneak in like a date night drink or something on Sunday because this is kind of our last weekend chance to get in some kind of a date situation just because there's going to be call coming up and travel and things like that. So yeah. All right, that is my review of the week ahead. This is kind of shaping up to be a little bit of a longer episode, but we're going to take our break now and be back to think about the rest of the steps. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Green Chef. If you're looking for a meal kit that truly offers healthy meals, including organic produce and responsibly sourced proteins and seafood, Green Chef is for you. You can trust every bite with over 40 clean, customizable weekly recipes designed to give you peace of mind. I love how many options they offer to help you align your dinners with your wellness goals. You can choose high protein, high fiber, plant-based, and more. And we've been super happy with the flavors and ease of preparation. They're family-friendly too. My kids get excited when we have a Green Chef dinner coming up because they know it will be something delicious. We especially love the Mediterranean and family-friendly options. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid, that's 50bestlaid, to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50bestlaid at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Mint Mobile. I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, traditional big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping lots of money too. One of my close family members recently told me about how much she started saving when she switched to Mint Mobile. The price difference is huge, and the difference in service for her has been undetectable. You too can get the financial benefit of switching today. At Mint Mobile, plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can bring your own phone and number and start saving immediately. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/BLP. That's mintmobile.com/BLP. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Today's episode is sponsored in part by IXL. It's that time of year again. Kids are busy with many spring activities, and yet there's also a big academic push in many places too. Whether you're a homeschooling parent or you want to provide some extra learning support for your child, IXL is a great tool, and spring is a wonderful time to try it out. My kids are using IXL and have been for years to learn and reinforce concepts, and IXL can be used as enrichment, review, or part of a homeschool curriculum. Everything is organized by grade and subject, so you can quickly find what each child needs without juggling multiple resources. The interactive practice and clear explanations and feedback make it easy to reinforce learning as you prepare for end-of-year tests or assessments or milestones. So make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. Best Laid Plans listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/plans. Visit IXL.com/plans to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. All right, I am back. And this is turning out to be a little bit of a longer episode. And I don't know if that is because I don't have a script. Like normally, I do a lot of planning before I get on the microphone. I don't know. Hopefully you can tell. But today I decided I would just kind of impromptu follow my process and go through it in real time as an example. And so there's just probably a little bit more rambling than usually happens during this podcast. But I still think these kind of example episodes are an interesting format. So we're going with it. All right. So just to recap, we have gone ahead and reviewed the prior week. We've migrated anything that didn't get done that still needs to be done to this week. And we've looked ahead really carefully at the calendar. I went through it verbally, but I would say I went through it even more carefully, looking at my kids' activities and who's driving and who's home, etc. I checked the WhatsApp for school to see if there was any events that were sneaky coming up. I checked the gymnastics Stack Team app that we use for that. I looked for sneaky sources of what I call calendar subterfuge to make sure everybody was on the same page. And the calendar has now been reviewed and kind of all makes sense. I didn't have to move anything big around, but I did have to make some decisions like, okay, if one kid needs to be at school at 6:30 a.m., but also picked up really late, who's doing those drivings? Okay, so step 3 is look around. And I wrote in my book, make sure your inboxes are processed to a degree that allows you to be confident in knowing what is on your plate for the next week. And for some people, that might mean aiming for weekly inbox 0. I would love to tell you that I'm at inbox 0 right now, but I'm absolutely not. However, I do feel like I have triaged. There's nothing in there that I think is going to be surprising to me. And I was at inbox 0 about a week ago. So I don't have a bunch of stuff to do. Nothing big is going to be scaring me or leaping at me like some unknown deadline. So I feel pretty comfortable that my inboxes are processed to a degree that won't cause me to be really blindsided by anything. Although, as I did that processing in real time and did this planning, I thought, one thing we hadn't done is to think about what podcast we're going to record on this retreat coming up. So as I was doing this processing, I texted Laura, my podcasting partner, and we started brainstorming. And then by the time I was done, we felt pretty comfortable knowing what was coming up ahead. So that's kind of an example of something that might get uncovered in a little kind of inbox check. All right, step 4 is look within. And I wrote in the book, assess your mood and your energy and get a holistic sense of how you feel about the upcoming week. You guys, I'm feeling great about this week, super great. I've talked about it on this podcast, but I have a lot of hormonally mediated mood swings, but I'm past the bad part and into the good part. Plus, as I said, I have a 2-day retreat and a concert coming up. So I'm feeling really happy and peaceful heading into this week. I think it's going to contain a lot of fun and memorable stuff. And so, I would say I feel positive. If I had been recording this 1 week ago, oh my gosh, it would have been a whole other ballgame. And honestly, I did do some of that planning and I did think about, oh my gosh, what are going to be my coping mechanisms this week? Because I know I'm going to struggle. And I did a little bit, but I got through it. And that's why I think this is just an important step. You want to be prepared, especially if, like me, you have somewhat predictable mood swings around hormonal changes. All right, that's as much as I'm going to get into that today, but this week is going to be a good week. All right, number 5, generate your weekly tasks and record them somewhere convenient. For me, I put them directly in my planner. And again, this is a little bit of a reenactment, so I'm just going to tell you what I ended up putting in my planner. The first 2 tasks actually were already there, but they're also kind of specific to things my kids are doing, so I'm not going to share them detailed, but let's just say kid-related, school-related tasks. Okay, I know I'm going to get those done this week. The next couple are things for me to do related to a possible future project around bringing some of this work to physicians. I'm working with a couple of really smart, really cool women from Johns Hopkins, actually. And so we're working on something. So I have some tasks to do for that. Under that, I have to book my PES flight. Okay. I have that I migrated from last week that I'm going to follow up with that music teacher for my youngest. I have to do my LLC annual report for the podcast. And I have to book a PCP appointment for one of my kids. So those are the things that are kind of already there. And you heard me go through the monthly. I'm going to turn back to my monthly list one more time to see if there's anything from the month list that like makes sense to add for this week. And I think this is a personal one and kind of trivial, but I think I will actually try to get my nails done this week, either on Wednesday after I come back from Vero Beach or over the weekend. And in terms of work, I think I'm going to be able to get a lot of brainstorming done for BLPA 2.0. And so I'm going to put that on my plate as well. And since I'm saying this, and maybe I get some added accountability from it, I think I will decide on which shows to pitch in terms of podcasts to go on. So I don't know if I'll send the emails out, but while I'm on this retreat with Laura, let me come up with 5 podcasts that I think would be good to pitch. So I'm going to put both of those things on my weekly list for the week so that I remember to make space for them as I'm planning each day. And I think that's about it. I might decide to reach out to some San Francisco friends since I'm heading there in a month, but I don't know if I want to officially put it on my plate or just kind of do it if it comes to mind. Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't really want to put the bathroom estimate stuff on for this week. My husband's on call this weekend. Yeah, that seems like enough. So adding those to my weekly list. Okay, let's see what our next step is. And we've generated our weekly tasks. The next step is weekly operations for smoother sailing. And I have to admit, again, I already did those because the week has already started. And I really do have to do these to feel like my week is off to a good start. So I will tell you what I have done. I have meal planned. We've decided what's going to be for dinner. I am not cooking this week, and I decided not to use prep this week. We used it last week. We use it all the time, but I'm not using it this week. I'm not going to be home on Monday and Tuesday night, and our nanny is going to be cooking for pretty much the weeknights this week, which she often does. She actually helps me with prep dish a great deal of the time as well. But anyway, for this week, we picked some butter chicken for Monday and Tuesday. No, tacos and taco salad for Monday and Tuesday. Butter chicken with naan and some vegetables for Wednesday and Thursday. And then on Friday, we're going to pull something out of the freezer. So check, meals are figured out. My workouts are another operation I always love to do weekly, and I have put those on the bottom of my weekly spread. I have 3 Pilates classes. Actually, well, as of this airing, I've already done 1, but 3 Pilates class on the docket for this week. I'm hoping to do 3 strength workouts, probably in Vero Beach for at least one of those, and a yoga using just online plus walking most days. And I don't always plan when I walk because my walks are really short and I just kind of sneak them in where they fit. But that is my movement plan for the week. Sleep, I don't plan out specifically. I know some people do, especially if you have like a shift type of job. But I will say that I am going to aim to sleep in after the Tiffany concert and get up just in time to take my youngest to tennis at 9. So that shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to plan regarding sleep, but I am going to be kind of mindful that I'm going to let myself sleep in on Saturday morning. Childcare and related logistics, we kind of have already figured that out as I did my whole weekly plan on the board, as I'll talk about in a second. And I shared that with my husband, I shared that with my kids, and I shared that with our nanny. So we kind of have all the childcare stuff figured out, including who's driving the kids. And media, I don't have media figured out, although I'm stalling in my book. And I went ahead and I ordered 2 more fiction books to read because I just wanted something else. And so I'm kind of excited to dive into those this week while I'm on vacation. And then I put financial audit on there, but I do that monthly. So for me, that's not a weekly operation. And then fun is mentioned here, but I think I already shared with you a lot of fun that I have planned in terms of getting to do this 2-day retreat with Laura, getting to go to a Tiffany concert with friends, and then getting to see family on Saturday night with the kids, and then on Sunday, possibly even sneaking out for a date night. So plenty of fun already on the docket for this week. Very excited. And then number 7 says, remember your weekends. They require planning attention too. And I often plan on the weekend, so I have to think about the next weekend that is coming up. Obviously, it's a little too late to be planning your weekend when it's already Sunday. But as I did this planning, I looked at the weekend coming up and I saw a lot of blank space, and I'm just super, super excited about that. So my husband is not working. As I mentioned, we're going to visit family on Saturday afternoon. But other than that, it's going to be, I think, a lot of like decluttering type stuff. And I'm trying to make it as fun and like light as possible. My husband has some home projects that he wants to start on as well. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really nice kind of chill, get things done at home type of a weekend with the added pressure that, again, I have my organizer coming back in a week and she gave me lots of homework. So I will hope to get a lot of that done. And then finally, number 8 is plan for communication and the fact that your weekly plan needs to be communicated and discussed with all stakeholders, hopefully a discussion component and a written record. And we had our discussion component actually mostly on a car ride back from Cameron's birthday party on Sunday afternoon. I knew my husband was going to go for a long run during dinner. So I figured, you know what? We're stuck in the car for 45 minutes. Let's talk through this week because I knew it was going to be really an unusual one with me going away, 2 field trips, etc. And so we did that verbal review in the car, which made it easy to, when we got home, for me to fill out the whiteboard that we use. And again, I send that to the kids now because both my older 2 have phones, and I send it to our nanny and I send it to my husband so that we all know what's going on. So that, in a nutshell, is how I do my weekly planning. Again, I'm going to include screenshots of both my planner spread here, as well as the whiteboard that we use for our in-home communication. We're not on Skylight or anything high tech, although I think those tools are really cool as well. But for right now, this works pretty well for us. And I feel like this is a work week with a lot of moving parts, but it's going to be really fun. Now, I know you might be listening to this in a totally different stage of life. Maybe you have really young kids. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you are older and retired. Maybe you don't have anyone helping you out around the house. I totally get it. There are so many different scenarios, but I still think many of these steps are going to be universally applicable. And I would love to hear, after you're listening to this, whether you have similarities and differences to how you plan your week. And especially if you feel like you've reached a weekly planner piece of sorts, where you are entering each week pretty much knowing what is on your plate and have built in some exciting things, but also some things to move your goals forward as well. But you have variations from what I talked about today. I would love to hear them, including the specific tools or maybe even specific ways that you communicate with others. So I think that would be a fun future spin-off episode to this one. So definitely let me know. Now, other than that, I'm trying to think if I have news to share. I mentioned last week about Best Laid Plans Live. We are filled up for next year already, which is wonderful but bittersweet because I know we're not going to be able to accommodate everyone who wanted to come. Of course, I will be doing the online version, which is really very similar in content to Best Laid Plans Live. It just does not have the fun in-person component or the sort of retreat component, but there is nothing to say you cannot purchase Best Laid Plans at home and do a DIY retreat of sorts as well. I probably will open up sales for BLP at home mid-year again so that people who want to join can join me for the kind of mid-year planning session. So keep your eyes open for that, as well as BLPA, Best Laid Plans Academy 2.0, where if you listen to this episode and you want to put these types of planning rituals into practice, but you have struggled and really want a more kind of experiential learning approach to the material I present in the book, then Best Laid Plans Academy may be for you. So stay tuned for that information, which will come out in my newsletter likely at the beginning of April. The easiest way to sign up for the newsletter is just to go to my website, theshoebox.com/newsletter. All right, well, this has been a fun episode. You'll have to give me feedback as to whether these real-time planning together sessions work for you, and maybe I'll do a seasonal one and a monthly one going forward. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. If you have time and are able to leave this show a review, or if you've read my book and you're able to leave a review for that, I appreciate it so much. Every recommendation helps to get the word out there about different effective ways of planning. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your reviews, and I'll be in your feed with more planning fun next Monday.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.